On May 22, 1863, the United States War Department established the Bureau of Colored Troops to organize and handle the enlistment of black troops into the Union Army. These infantries became known as the United States Colored Troops, or USCTs. They were organized into regiments numerically, corresponding to their order of acceptance into the Bureau. Colored infantries were formed all across the country. The Confederate Army was reluctant to enlist black soldiers, and the Bureau of Colored Troops took advantage of this. The Bureau recruited black soldiers from Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Tennessee. The 4th and 7th United States Colored Troops were formed using prisoners and former enslaved men from Baltimore, Maryland. White officers who were in charge of leading these regiments were given rigorous screenings. The qualifications were based on strict conditions. By fall of 1863, 3 boards were set up to handle these officers' applications. Out of 1,534 applicants, only 517 were qualified to lead the black troops. The denial of the other applicants was mainly due to mental or physical ailments. Despite much adversity, the numbers of black regiments rapidly increased. During 1864, the number of black regiments went from 58 to 140, attesting to the increasing number of blacks in military uniform. They proved to be a crucial component of the Union Army during the Civil War. They were credited with shifting the direction of the war in the Union's favor. On May 23, 1864, the 1st Michigan Colored Volunteer Infantry was redesignated the 102nd Regiment United States Colored Troops. The regiment was first organized on a farm with 845 men from Detroit, southern Michigan, and Ontario, Canada, on February 17, 1863. Many of the volunteers had escaped slavery via the Underground Railroad, and others were fighting to free family members still enslaved.
The majority of this group of the 102nd, at the time was the 1st Michigan, were not Michiganders. So they came from everywhere. And 10 or 11% were from Canada, who repatriated, came back to fight for freedom.
George DeBaptiste, Detroit abolitionist, recruited black men from Michigan's 102nd Regiment. He followed the 102nd to the Sea Islands in South Carolina, where in 1864 he sold provisions to the troops. The 102nd fought throughout South Carolina, eastern Georgia, and Florida during the Civil War. After the war, they served occupation duty until they were disbanded on October 17, 1865.
They had half a dozen battles, but the most important one was the Battle of Honey Hill. That was November 30th, 1864. There, they fought side by side with the famous 54th Mass. And that battle had it had a lot to do with Sherman's march to the sea. And they were supposed to have arrived a little earlier, captured that area and torn up the railroad tracks. But for whatever reason, they got there a little late. The Confederates were there, entrenched, and so the battle ensued.
A Michigan historical marker commemorating the regiment was installed in Detroit, Michigan on April 12, 1968.